Hi, I'm Niklas Hallin and this is the Neckbolt Dev blog. Today I'm gonna talk about 3D art asset production.
We will follow the pipeline of this Iron Maiden, which can be found in the creepy crypts beneath the Thunder Garden and also in the prison dungeons of Nightingale City. The first step is of course design and concept art. Luckily, I have already created this asset once before. It featured in the beginning of my previous game Belladonna. It's basically a medieval Iron Maiden mixed with that robot from Metropolis and a kinky straitjacket. By bringing together artificial humans, torture and eroticism, this prop is pretty much just one big visual metaphor for what Belladonna was all about. All the major themes of the game summarized in a single prop right at the start of the game. In the more benign elephant game, however, it's more of a cute little Easter egg and a reference to my previous game. With the design done, it's time to head into ZBrush and create a high poly sculpt. I don't do this for all or even most of the assets in this game, just the ones with more complex shapes. For stuff like boxes and pillars and fences and even tombstones, I usually just skip this step. Once we have a high poly sculpt that we are reasonably happy with, it's time to create the in-game model using a method called retopology, where we basically create a game-ready low poly model using the sculpt as a reference. Why, you ask, would I want to create the exact same model 2 times? Well, the answer is that we can use all the information and detail from the high resolution model and project them onto the low res model and store them there in the form of textures. One texture we get out of this is the ambient occlusion, which is basically just a map of all the shadows on the model. But I'm also using a trick with a map called bent normal map. As you might know from math class, a normal is a vector perpendicular to the tangent of the point of a curve. Each point on a 3D mesh has a normal and the high poly sculpt has a whole lot more points. But we can save all those normals as a texture instead and then simply paint them back onto the low res model. The bent normal map is a bit special. It's calculated differently from the regular normal map and it has the special property that if you use only the green channel of the image, you get a map where every normal pointing upwards on the model becomes white, normals angled straight down becomes black, and everything in between becomes gradual shades of grey. Wow, isn't this a steamy episode? The great thing about this is that even though this technique has nothing at all to do with light, the end result kinda looks like a strong light source is illuminating the object from above. Something like, for instance, a sun. I also make what I call a gradient map, where I just project a black and white gradient onto the model directly from the side. This makes the top of the model brighter and the bottom darker, which is great for humanoid characters because it draws the viewer's attention to the face and upper body and away from the boring feet. After all this, it's a relatively easy task to just combine all these textures in Photoshop, add some color and put some final artistic touches. Textures that are completely generated by a computer can be a bit soulless, just like everything else computer generated, so it is important to go in with your amazing human mind and just give it some love. Since this particular asset will not be animated or interactable in any way, we're pretty much done here. And it's time to put it into the game. Voila! After all this, I just gotta ask, are you a game developer yourself? I realize that if you are, you probably already knew a lot of this stuff. And if you're not, it's hard to see how this would be useful in your daily life. This is starting to sound a bit like Mino's paradox. I guess you could be an aspiring game developer, or even someone who is just interested in how stuff works. In any case, it'd be cool to see how many of you watching this are working on games of your own. That's all for today's episode, but stay tuned for next week when I'll be back. This whole project is funded via Patreon, and if you want to help out, it would be super cool if you could head over there and subscribe. Your contribution is what makes this game possible. You can also subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Twitter for quick updates. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.